Welcome upon
It's brought to you by the Chris Mathis Podcast. All right, guys, welcome back into the Chris Mathis Podcast. I am your host, Chris Mathis, joined by Spencer Mathis, of course, my brother up there in Georgia. I'm down here in Tampa, Florida. Excited for another edition of the Chris Mathis Podcast. And I tell you what, we got a lot to get into today across the National Football League. A potential Talk to Him Tuesday guest in the works. Hopefully we can land this guest, and we'll talk about the upcoming games for this week across the NFL, our predictions, the big storylines for the games, a couple of players too, and that's all right here on the Chris Mathis podcast, brought to you by Information on Demand, 855-914-4636. And for more information on Information on Demand, here you go. Whether you need criminal background checks, drug screenings, E-Verify, academic accreditations, or other screening services, they've got you covered. You can rest easy knowing a highly trained search team will get you the information in just 8 hours or less, whether you're in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, you're down here in Tampa, Florida. They can take care of you. That's informationondemand.net. And you'll be able to rest easy knowing a highly trained search team will get you that information you need. They're fast, affordable, accurate pre-employment background screenings. Give them a call today, 855-914-4636, or visit them on informationondemand.net today. And you can check out the bio down below for more information regarding that. And of course, they bring you every edition of the Chris Mathis Podcast. Glad to have you guys tuned in. And before I spoke with Spencer before this show started, before this taping of the show, I said I had some big news. If you guys want to help out with this podcast, which I hate to be that guy, but in order to, help out somebody in the media market, it is going to take you guys and your help to share this podcast, to comment on this podcast. More importantly, if you're on YouTube, give this a thumbs up right now. Comment below. It doesn't matter what you comment. Comment anything. You love the show. You hate the show. I don't care. Comment something. Like it. Share it. Also on Spotify, you can leave a 5-star review. And yeah, you can leave other stars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But you want to leave that 5-star review. Over the weekend, we hit 19 5-star reviews, which is really, really good. 19 5-star reviews on Spotify. So all you have to do is right now look down at Spotify and scroll over. Click the 5 stars, leave your review. On Apple Podcasts, we do the same thing. You can leave a review, leave 5 stars on there as well. But Spence, first and foremost, how you doing this evening? Glad to have you here once more. I believe episode 56 or 57. I've lost count. It's been over a year.
I'm doing good on this here evening, right before the pod release. Everyone, of course, a couple of sleepless nights in a row, knowing that the pod's going to release on this day. I know that people really need to catch up on their sleep, maybe take some more melatonin, maybe even the gummy form of melatonin to catch up on your sleep, because whenever you wake up, you're going to be listening to this podcast. So I'm just happy knowing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is how I wake up right here at Bang Energy Drink. If they want to sponsor me, sponsor Spencer, I'm sure he'd take it too. But great flavor. I'm telling you right now, there's no sugar in there. That's what they call. I probably shouldn't have said that if I'm trying to get a sponsorship. But that's what they say. No sugar. It tastes great. And it gets you going. But we're going to talk about the storyline of the Indianapolis Colts moving on from Frank Reich as head coach of the Colts. Jeff Saturday, former Indianapolis Colts center, Green Bay Packers center for a year as well. Jeff Saturday serving as the interim head coach there in Indianapolis. A crazy, honest dumpster fire there in Indy. They bring in Matt Ryan, the 37-year-old veteran this year. After, I think, 7 games, they decide, hey, he will not start. Not only this upcoming week, he will not start for the rest of the season. Matt Ryan benched. And, yeah, he did have how many turnovers, Spencer, at the moment that he was benched?
Yeah, 7 interceptions and 11 fumbles. But, of course, not all those were recovered by the defense.
Yeah, he did have a lot of turmoil there behind that offensive line that was struggling throughout this entire year. Of course, Jonathan Taylor having somewhat of an off year. He's battled through injury this season too. So that doesn't help that they're not able to establish that rushing attack. Offensive line has been beat up as well, but then to bench the veteran that you brought in, the key piece of this team as they try to make a playoff run. Last year, Carson Wentz, the quarterback with bad ankles, was under center. This year, I thought they took an improvement with Matt Ryan, former Atlanta Falcon, who went to the Super Bowl, who won an MVP, and obviously did not get the job done. I am still shocked that they moved on and went to Sam Ehlinger at quarterback, who had a terrible performance this past weekend. And with that, they fire Frank Reich. Then they all of a sudden bring in a guy in Jeff Saturday to serve as the interim head coach who has never, ever coached collegiately or in the NFL. Granted, he did play in the NFL for more than a decade. He's coached at the high school level at Hebron Christian Academy in Georgia, a team that I'm familiar with, and I'll get into that here momentarily. But Spence, how do you feel about this move, promoting a former center, franchise, keystone, cornerstone piece, a guy who I believe is in the Hall of Fame or will be in the Hall of Fame, and Jeff Saturday as head coach of the Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, I like the move to fire Frank Reich. I don't think he's the guy in Indianapolis. Apparently, he's been there 5 years. I could not believe that whenever I saw that. I didn't know it had been that long. But, I mean, he's had Phillip Rivers, he's had Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan. None of them have seemed to work. They spent a ton of money. They ended up benching Matt Ryan, and I think it was for reasons because in his contract, whenever they did the trade earlier on before the season started, there was an incentive for him for games played or games started. So that's why they benched Matt Ryan. They knew that they're not a playoff team. They're trying to tank. They're in full tank mode starting Sam Ehlinger. And then you hire Jeff Saturday, a dude that's never coached in collegiate or NFL level football. And that just completely shows that you're trying to tank. I get like firing Frank Reich, but usually whenever you go for an interim head coach, you hire someone that has some experience. So maybe they have a shot coming into the next season like the Raiders did last season whenever they fired John Gruden and then promoted their defensive coordinator. Apparently, they're just going to go with Jeff Saturday, who was a high school football coach that didn't do great in high school either, and now he's the head coach of an NFL team. And that I think they're just going to try and run that ship into the ground for the rest of the year.
Yeah, you talk about Jeff Saturday filling in as interim head coach. My question, or kind of my point of view on this, is at this point, what's there to lose? Do you see there being any loss to the situation and having a guy and an interim head coach, a guy like Jeff Saturday, take over with the reins?
Well, there's nothing to lose, but there's also nothing to gain because the Raiders last season with their interim head coach made the playoffs. And then the next year they hired Josh McDaniels. He doesn't even get rehired, so he's gone. Now you look at the Colts, let's say they make the playoffs somehow, some way. I don't even think Jeff Saturday would be hired at any position on that team. I think this was just I think Jim Irsay called up his former player, Jeff Saturday, and said, hey, we're trying to tank. We don't want to get anybody from within because they may make us decent, so we're going to go with you. And he agreed, of course, because he's getting paid to be an NFL head coach with no prior experience and didn't have to go through all the tedious task of coaching high school, college, being a play caller in the NFL. He's just straight into it.
Yeah, they've played through 9 games so far, 3-5-1 on the year. They're second place in the AFC South, just behind the Tennessee Titans, who are 5-3. I mean, they're still, it's crazy to say, they're still in the hunt in a way. I mean, the Titans would have to fall off a little bit, maybe lose 2 or 3 of their next 5. And of course, you'd like to see the Colts win 3 or 4 of their next 5. But really, the season is not over in terms of where they're at in terms of a potential shot at the wild card or maybe even winning that AFC South.
Yeah, I do not think they have any chance, though, still, even with their record. I mean, before last week, they had a little bit of a shot. They realized, hey, we lost to the Patriots. We got absolutely destroyed. We put up -2 yards of offense in the first quarter, and that's whenever they fired Frank Reich and they threw the season away.
Yeah, I think this is a crazy – I think Frank Reich kind of got the bad end of the deal here.
I think this is the most we've ever seen an NFL team try to tank, ever. Worse than
I guess the Jacksonville Jaguars didn't intend for Urban Meyer to kick his kicker, Josh Lambo, and for all of that to really hit the fan there in Jacksonville last year. But, yeah, I think it's crazy because I believe the Colts made it to the playoffs, or they were 1 win away from the playoffs last season, right, as they took on
they were 1 win away, and then that loss to the Jaguars, Clownsville.
Yep. Yeah, that's insane. And I know Jeff Saturday – I shouldn't say I know of Jeff Saturday. I actually got to meet Jeff Saturday a few years ago. I'm going to show you guys a photo that I took when I was doing play-by-play broadcasting for the Towns County Indians in Hiawassee, Georgia. And I was talking to Ken, my guy, the guy back at the studio. His name was Ken. He was helping me with the roster, and he said, "Chris, did you notice anything about the roster?" And I said, "No, I didn't." He's like, "Look at the center on the team." I believe Saturday's son played center as well in high school. He played both sides of the ball, but he's like, look at number whatever, his last name Saturday. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, does that kind of ring a bell? And I'm thinking, I mean, maybe Jeff Saturday. Is this, Jeff Saturday? He's like, yeah, Jeff Saturday is the head coach of Hebron Christian Academy. That's Hebron Christian Academy in Georgia. He was there for, I believe, 3 seasons. Don't mark my word on that. I'll have to do my research regarding that. But anyway, after he played Towns County, it was a beatdown. It was awful. After the game, I made my way down to the field in Hiawassee, Georgia, saw Jeff Saturday, who lost a considerably amount of weight. I mean, look at his size there. He's lost so much weight. This was, I think, year one or just year two after he retired from the NFL. Dated October 6th, 2018. So just over 4 years ago. And nobody recognized him. And I don't know if that was just a lack of watching pro football there, or lack of watching the Indianapolis Colts or Green Bay Packers in Towns County, or if it was just this guy lost so much weight, I don't recognize him. But Jeff Saturday was a stand-up guy, was willing to take a photo with me before his team loaded up on the bus. And I wish him nothing but the best in Indianapolis. But the way that you say, hey, I think he just called up, or Jim Irsay called up a former player and said, hey, will you help take over this team, help lead this team? And I'm not sure who's going to do the play calling in Indy, because Frank Reich was also the play caller offensively.
Yeah, well, he was the play caller for a week because they fired their offensive coordinator last week. And then Reich called the plays for a week. They said, hey, this guy's not good either. So now we're going to hire Jeff Saturday. But are you sure that picture was taken 4 years ago? I mean, you could tell me that picture was taken yesterday and I'd believe you.
Yeah, why is that?
You look the exact same.
Really?
The exact same.
2018, October 6th, yeah.
Look at it.
I do.
Dude on the right is now an NFL head coach. Dude on the left may have a chance at becoming a head coach someday too, with no experience. We'll see.
Yeah, at this rate. If not, I might be, maybe modeling some Brady brand. Maybe they're like, hey, look, this guy's on TB12 method without even having to take the TB12 method. As you said, I haven't aged in 4 years. Maybe Tom thinks, hey, you know what, this guy, we could use this guy and think this guy could be a model, or not even a model, but help promote Brady brand and TB12 method, because after the game on Sunday, in which the Buccaneers finally snapped a 3-game losing skid as they beat the Los Angeles Rams 16-13, they're at Raymond James Stadium, home of the Buccaneers in Tampa on Sunday. I got to talk with Tom Brady, of course, Todd Bowles, head coach of the Buccaneers too, following the win. But first, talk about that game, Spence. What'd you see? I'll say this. Obviously, I've always been a diehard Buccaneers fan, but now I'm thinking with my role at work, it's a little bit different. Up in the press box at Raymond James, you can't really get excited. You can't cheer. That's just broadcast. That's just press media credential etiquette. You don't want to make too much noise up there. Guys are writing, female reporters are writing stories, or they're listening to radio or trying to get information, and you're not supposed to cheer. So as far as my excitement, it's just hoping the game has maybe a couple of big splash plays. Of course, I hope the Buccaneers win, but you never see me get excited because I don't want to run the risk of getting kicked out. So from your perspective as a fan, what were your thoughts on that Bucs game on Sunday, in which they had 10 yards of offense in the third quarter against a struggling Rams team that won the Super Bowl last year? And these two teams are the two previous Super Bowl winners, and one team is 4-5, the other is now 3-6 on the year. It's unreal.
Yeah, the Buccaneers offense looked like absolute dog water for 59 minutes and 16 seconds. And then the final 44 seconds from their own 40-yard line, no timeouts. They need a touchdown. And they somehow drive down the field because Brady puts together the drive, calling the plays himself. You can see that that's a big point of emphasis moving forward. Hopefully, we'll see Brady get to call the plays a little bit more often, which should be a thing in the NFL either way, because the quarterbacks are so smart that they could easily call their own plays for an entire drive. That's what Peyton Manning used to do with the Colts. That's what Brady did in the Super Bowl year down the stretch. I mean, it works. So I think that they need to give more reins, a couple more reins over there to Tom Brady, because he should have a little bit more control of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense, because they looked like they were horrible for 59 minutes and 16 seconds. The defense played great, but then you look at the Rams, who their offense is struggling just as much as the Buccaneers heading into that game. So it was important to win that game, but I still do not think that the Buccaneers are in a good spot. And maybe if they lose badly this week against the Seahawks in Munich, Germany, we may see Byron Leftwich out the door.
There's some guys here at the radio station at 953 WDAE, iHeartMedia Tampa Bay, that do not see any coaching changes being made this season. They pretty much swear by it in terms of why do it midseason? What's that going to do for your program or your team moving forward? I still think that Byron would be fired if he has another awful performance or two, because as you said, for over 59 minutes of that game on Sunday, the offense looked flat. Tom Brady, one passing touchdown. And last weekend on Sunday morning, Ronnie Night Train Lane, who's the host of the co-host of the Ronnie and T-Crash show, the show I produce at 953 WDAE, his bold prediction heading into that game was Tom Brady throwing 2 touchdown passes, which, crazily enough, you hear Tom throwing 2 touchdown passes. That should be, the basic formula for Tom Brady's career. He throws 2, 3 a game. But really, it was a bold prediction, and Tom Brady threw 1 passing touchdown in that game on Sunday. So what's the deal? Is it the lack of running the ball in terms of having success on the ground, or is it this offense is just struggling as a whole? And even through the air, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans just don't look the same as they have in the past? Or is it the offensive line up front?
Yeah, the Bucs try to force the run too much to one of the best play action teams in the league, and they refuse to run play action plays. Even with how bad the run game is, the Buccaneers are a top 5 team whenever they go play action. And they're one of the best offenses in the 2-minute drill because Brady gets to control the team. So, I mean, the run game's horrible. Leonard Fournette's having a terrible year. He averaged 2 yards a carry on Sunday against the Rams. Rachaad White's a little bit of juice. Maybe we'll see him get more starts heading down this season, because I don't think Leonard Fournette's doing great at all this year. They've only forced 13 missed tackles as a running back group this entire season, which is last in the NFL. They're statistically the worst run offense of all time right now, which is worse than a team from, I think, 1960s and 1960s Lions were the worst team
before the merger.
So, I mean, to be the worst team of all time running the football is a horrible thing. And I think the Buccaneers just have to abandon the run. You saw them throw the ball 58 times last week against the Rams. Brady's got to be a little bit more accurate. The receivers dropped way too many passes, including Mike Evans. Chris Godwin looked good. Julio Jones can't stay out on the field. And they can't execute because it seems like the receiver and the quarterback are off at almost all times. And you see the same thing in Green Bay with Aaron Rodgers. So I think it's going to come down to execution, which is what a lot of players and coaches say after a loss. But in the Bucs case, I think it really is execution, because you can see Brady yelling at his receivers, telling them to cut here, cut there. There was one play where they called over Julio Jones from left to right to run a jet sweep, and Brady goes to hand the ball off to Julio Jones, and he's not there. He's running back the other way after being called in motion. He didn't know what he was doing out there. He's hurt. He'll probably be out for a couple more weeks because he's always been injury prone, but maybe down the stretch he'll be useful.
I don't know. I think I could see Julio Jones getting cut.
I don't think he'll get cut, but
I don't know. If it comes, because I think Rob Gronkowski makes a return to the Buccaneers at some point. If they have to clear up some space, if they could, I don't know exactly how that money line would work in terms of Julio Jones. If you could cut some of his contract away and help out, I would do that. I totally would. And I hate to say that, because when Julio signed, I thought, hey, this guy is going to make an impact. And he has, but and no way positive. In training camp, the guy looked great. He and Russell Gage were the best receivers in training camp, and I saw that firsthand. And in the NFL games, Russell Gage has been banged up. He's nothing special. He looks slow this year. Julio Jones can't even stay healthy.
Yeah, then Chris Godwin as well, coming off the ACL injury, still doesn't have his full speed that he usually does. His yards of separation is like bottom 30 in the league at receiver, which is not good because he's just not as explosive as he was before the injury. Hopefully down the stretch of the season, he'll recover a little bit better. But I think if he's not good within the next 3 weeks, like after this bye week, and give him one more game, then I think this is the Chris Godwin that we're going to see forever.
Oh, man, that's hot. And I hope that you're wrong, because Chris Godwin just surpassed Mark Carrier this past weekend to become second on the list in terms of Buccaneer receiving yards all time. And the guy's, 26, maybe 27 years old. Incredible stuff there from Chris Godwin. All right, we'll wrap up the Tom Brady talk with the audio of my question that I asked Brady at the presser while he was at the podium after Sunday's game, 16-13, as they beat the Rams. Keep in mind, I believe I was the 5th or 6th guy to ask a question. Of course, there's some female reporters too. I was the 5th or 6th question asked in this press conference, and this is the game in which Brady eclipsed 100,000 career passing yards, which has never been done before. And I'm writing it down right now. It'll never happen again in the next 50 years, if not longer, 100,000 or more passing yards. And here's the question I fired off and Tom Brady's response.
Brady, you eclipsed 100,000 career passing yards. On top of that, you got a win tonight as well. How big was that, and how much more exciting is that for you, knowing that you guys were able to snap that losing streak? And, of course, you got that record.
Yeah, it's all about the win, so it's all about the win, man. How much never cared about that. It's all about the win.
So that was Tom Brady saying it was all about the win. The next day I get home and I see some articles. Pro Football Talk used "It's all about the win" as their headline for the game. That was really cool. And then I saw a couple of others. I believe ABC Network as well used the title also. And then Yahoo Sports too. I know they're kind of cahoots with Pro Football Talk, who's also in cahoots with NBC Sports. And then today I woke up and I saw a tweet. Some listener of the Pat and Aaron show here at 953 WDAE tagged me, Pat Donovan, and Aaron Jacobson and said, "Hey, look, Chris made it, Brady brand." And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So I click on the video, and I don't want to run the risk of it screwing up the recording of this podcast, but I will show that they put out a tweet, and it was a promo video, including my question and Tom Brady's response for Brady brand and their hoodie. And so it was my entire question and then Brady's response to the question with the headline, or I should say the title, The Ultimate Flex. So you can see it right there on your screen. That's Brady brand, Tom Brady's clothing line. Used the question and his response and then turned it into a hype video for his new clothing line, which was super cool. And it was like 10 seconds of fame, but it was neat. I'm hoping that maybe if I sit in the same spot as I did last week, maybe I can, catch fire and Tom realizes I'm always right there. And I don't know, maybe you'll hook me up with some Brady brand. What do you think the chances are with that, Spence?
I don't think so. You weren't following Brady brand, so I don't think he's gonna want to get you on with him if you're not gonna follow his company. So
how'd you know I wasn't following it?
It showed it in the top right.
Well, okay. Yeah, I'm going to follow it right now. I'm going to do so right now. That way he can't question me. All right, we're following it now.
Good.
Brady, if you are listening right now, send me some stuff, some goodies. Email me, DM me on Twitter, Instagram at the Chris Matz. But anyway, that was really cool. And I'll make sure to tag the video link down below. A couple of other links too. Now we're going to get into our game predictions here on the Chris Mathis podcast as we start off with Thursday Night Football as the Atlanta Falcons take on the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte. The Falcons, they've had a really good season, all things considered. They're 4-5. The Carolina Panthers 2-7. And the Falcons are 3-point road favorites here on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, Thursday Night Football games have been absolutely horrible this season, but surprisingly enough, this Falcons-Panthers game will probably be the best one that we've seen so far because both of these teams are sitting at second and third respectively in the division, with the Falcons being second place right behind the Bucs with the exact same record, but the Buccaneers are 2-1 in the NFC South. Falcons are 1-2, but if the Falcons win this game, then they're in first place of the NFC South, especially if the Buccaneers lose on Sunday. So this should be a really good game. But with Carolina, I don't think we're going to see P.J. Walker as the starting quarterback because last week in the Carolina game, they benched P.J. Walker for Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield came in and threw 2 touchdowns. So we're going to see Baker Mayfield versus Marcus Mariota. And I think the Panthers are going to come out with a win in this game because just 2 weeks ago, we saw P.J. Walker throw what should have been a game-winning 60-yard touchdown through the air to DJ Moore. That was really, they lost the game because their kicker couldn't make a 46-yard field goal, an extra point on a 46-yard field goal because DJ Moore took off his helmet. I don't think that's going to happen here. I think Baker Mayfield is going to run the clock out because both these teams are going to run the ball all over the place. But I think Carolina is going to have the edge in this game.
What's crazy is quarterback Sam Darnold was also promoted off the injury reserve as well. So he's going to be active. I don't think he'll play, but he's going to be available in case they have to bench Baker and it's a quarterback carousel there in Charlotte. I don't know.
Yeah, and notice how they waited till the week after Halloween to activate Sam Darnold because he was seeing ghosts. They waited to make sure that he wasn't going to be seeing ghosts this year. Now he's going to be seeing turkeys in the end zone because if the Panthers were to play on Thanksgiving Day, I think he'd be the one getting the turkey leg.
I'm going to take Atlanta in this game, and I kind of like your viewpoint on this to say that Atlanta is going to lose. It is in Charlotte, but I will say Atlanta Falcons win, and they cover that 3-point spread. Now, Sunday, the Buccaneers play against the Seattle Seahawks in Germany, and I bring this game up first because it's a 9:30 a.m. kickoff, and the Buccaneers 2.5-point favorites. Some way, somehow, Seahawks are 6-3, the Buccaneers 4-5. Again, the Buccaneers are 2.5-point favorites coming off of a 3-point win over the Rams. Geno Smith has dominated this year. He's came out of the woodworks. He's came out of nowhere. He's taken over. He's done well replacing Russell Wilson. And Seattle looks to be legit, all things considered. I think if they make their way into the playoffs, they could potentially win a game, maybe 2.
Yeah, I think right now the Buccaneers are 0-3 overseas, but they've never played in Germany, neither has any other team. And the Buccaneers team, their origin team for Germany is the Buccaneers. So Germany has the biggest fan base for the Buccaneers outside of a different country other than England with whoever their host team is. But the Buccaneers traveling to their new home in Germany. This is taking away a home game from the Buccaneers. a 9:30 a.m. start against a really good Seahawks team. I think from a non-fans perspective, the Seahawks win this game, but I want the Buccaneers to win, so I'm going to have to pick the Bucs in this game.
I'm going to take the Bucs in this game either way, simply because the Bucs finally got over the hump in terms of breaking that 3-game losing skid. I know it was a close game. It was the last 40-second drive that the Buccaneers were able to capitalize on, but that's huge moving forward. The locker room after Sunday's win was awesome compared to the previous 3 games I went to. I'm telling you, it felt like they just won a playoff game just simply because they were trying to get that energy out, and you could tell the vibes were high. Even the punter, Jake Camarda, which you guys listening back home in Georgia, former University of Georgia Bulldog punter there, got the game ball of all Buccaneers because he had a 74-yard punt, a 68-yard punt. I think his punt average was over 60 yards on Sunday. The guy was phenomenal. And Jake Camarda, a rookie punter, got the game ball. I'm taking the Buccaneers on Sunday, 9:30 a.m. kickoff. I think they win by 10+. And I know it's a shocker, but I do think the Buccaneers get this done. Now, the Tennessee Titans, they host the Denver Broncos at 1 o'clock on Sunday. The Titans 5-3, the Broncos 3-5. Titans are 3-point favorites, just 3 points over the Broncos.
Yeah, this is going to be an ugly, low-scoring game. I'm going to take the Titans in this game just because I still do not believe in Russell Wilson. But if Malik Willis is the starting quarterback again and Ryan Tannehill's out with the same illness that he was out with last week against the Chiefs, I think that the Broncos win the game. So if Tannehill plays, I'm taking the Titans. If Malik Willis plays, I'm taking the Broncos. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that Tannehill's going to play. So I'm going to take the Titans in this game over 3 points.
You know what, Spence, I'm going with if Tannehill plays, I'm taking the Titans. And if Malik Willis plays, I'm taking the Titans. I think they cover with that 3-point spread at home, 1 o'clock kickoff against Russell Wilson. Now, the Cleveland Browns, they've had a pretty decent year. They're 3-5. They take on the Miami Dolphins in Miami, which Tyreek Hill, Waddle has been phenomenal. Tua looks really good this season too. And Raheem Mostert not having a bad year either for the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, the home team, they are 4-point winners or favorites in this game on Sunday.
Yeah, the Browns kind of need to win this game because they've got the Predator lurking in the shadows. I think he comes back in 3 or 4 weeks from now. So this is a must win for the Browns, but with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback and Deshaun Watson waiting, whenever they get him, they'll be pretty good. But they're probably going to be out of playoff contention by that time in week 11, unless they win every single game with Deshaun Watson. And we saw Deshaun Watson in the preseason. He looked absolutely horrible. He threw 4 straight incompletions in a preseason game.
One was 11 yards past his guy.
Yeah, he looked really bad. So this is a must win for the Browns. So I'm going to take the Dolphins in this game by at least 7 points because Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle are all going off this season. They added Jeff Wilson at running back, who's an absolute stud. Surprisingly, the 49ers traded him away in that Christian McCaffrey trade or whatever. I think it may have been a different trade, but they did trade him away because they got Christian McCaffrey. I don't think that was a good trade for the 49ers, but for the Dolphins to get a guy like him as your running back, as a number 1 or number 2, depending on how you look at it, that's a huge add for a Dolphins offense that's really good, but a Dolphins defense that isn't very good. And I think in a game like this, you're playing against the Browns. Your defense doesn't have to be great if Jacoby Brissett's the opposing quarterback. So the Dolphins win this one by 7.
Spence, you know how Mike McDaniel, head coach of the Miami Dolphins, dresses? For those that do not know or have never seen Mike McDaniel, head coach of the Miami Dolphins, how would you describe what does he wear? How does he dress on the sidelines? It's a little bit different than most coaches.
He looks flashy. He's got the nice sunglasses. He's a little bit laid back, but he's an absolute stud. He dresses like Logic.
What's he wearing? He's not wearing khakis. What's he wearing?
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Sweatpants? That's what I'm trying to say. He's got sweatpants on. Check out what I got right here. Got the sweatpants on. They're shrinking or I'm getting taller. I don't know. They're shrinking or I'm getting taller, but I got the sweats on.
They're shrinking.
I'm getting taller, baby. No, but seriously, I'm taking Mike McDaniel, the Miami Dolphins, simply because of the way I'm dressed today. No, but real talk, Jalen Waddle's been phenomenal. Tyreek Hill is going to break the record this year at this rate. He's proved me wrong. I thought he needed Patrick Mahomes or vice versa. That is not the case. I'm taking the Dolphins with the spread, 4-point favorite at home. The New Orleans Saints, they take on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. The Saints, 2.5-point favorites on the road. This is one of the ugliest games of the week and maybe of the season in terms of where we're at right now with both teams.
Yeah, that's a terrible game. The thing with the Saints is that they say that Jameis Winston's not going to come back for a while. Andy Dalton's not a good quarterback. they really have nothing going for them. And I'm sure at this point, with Dennis Allen in his first year as the head coach, is kind of wanting to tank with their current record. They're in the cellar of the worst division in the NFL in the NFC South. So I think they're going to lose to another horrible team. The Steelers may be even worse on paper than the Saints, but if the Steelers want to open up their offense for their rookie quarterback, Kenny Pickett, and maybe take some more shots downfield to their big receivers and George Pickens and Deontay Johnson, and also their tight end, Pat Freiermuth, I think if they open up their offense a little bit more, that'll be good for them. Even if they're willing to live with the turnovers that's going to happen from the rookie quarterback, I think you have to do that at this point with how bad the Steelers are and how bad the Saints are as well. So if the Steelers can open up their playbook, the Steelers are going to win this game. But I'm going to take the Steelers regardless in this game, even though I don't think that they're going to do what I just told them to do.
I don't know. Maybe Mike Tomlin might be tuned in right now. As you guys are, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at @TCM_pod. Comment, tweet us as well, at @LSavageSpence, at @TheChrisMathis. I'm taking the Saints simply because they just got embarrassed on Monday Night Football at home in front of the home team crowd. Alvin Kamara had, I think, 68 yards from scrimmage. That's not happening again. If he goes for over 100, the Saints win. And I'm taking the Saints as well. It's a 2.5-point spread. They win by at least a field goal. The Chicago Bears will host the Detroit Lions on Sunday, and the Bears, the home team, are 3-point favorites. Justin Fields finally showed off his speed against Mike McDaniel, the Miami Dolphins, last week. He looked really good. They were going blow for blow with their opponent. Both teams have 6 losses. The Detroit Lions 2-6, the Bears 3-6.
Yeah, the Bears look pretty good over the last 2 or 3 weeks, and adding Chase Claypool is going to be good down the stretch for a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs, but they're looking to build for the future at the moment. I'm going to take the Bears in this game, and I think Chase Claypool is going to have a big game for Justin Fields.
I'm taking the Bears in this game at home as well. The Detroit Lions beat the Green Bay Packers in Detroit last week. They're probably feeling way too confident, and they're not biting off any kneecaps in this game. The Buffalo Bills and the Minnesota Vikings go head-to-head. This is a good matchup. The Vikings 7-1, the Bills 6-2. Both teams first place in their respective divisions. Again, this game is in Orchard Park, New York. It's going to be a good matchup. I think Josh Allen has a bit of an injury, nothing major as far as I could tell, or as far as I've got an update. We'll hear more by Friday in regards to Josh Allen and his injury. But the Bills, 5.5-point favorites over the Vikings.
Yeah, there were some critics saying earlier this morning on Good Morning Football that Josh Allen may be requiring Tommy John surgery, which I think that's not true, but it does look like he's got a pretty bad throwing injury in his right arm. So we'll see exactly what that is. Could be like Matthew Stafford. We've seen him fall off a complete cliff this year with that injury that he suffered in the Super Bowl last season in that win against the Bengals. But if Josh Allen isn't 100%, and even if he is, I think the Vikings win this game because over the last 2 weeks, Josh Allen has thrown 2 picks in both of those games. He threw 2 against the Packers down the stretch in a game that they were up by 17. He threw the game away last week against the Jets, a game that they lost 20-17. He has not looked good recently. And those 2 interceptions, if you go back and watch them or look them up, the 2 interceptions that Josh Allen threw against the Jets on Sunday, they were horrible. I mean, they were right to the Jets defender with nobody in his face, just completely making the wrong read. It just looked horrible. So I think I'm going to take the Vikings in this game. What was the line?
5.5 for the Bills.
I'm going to take the Vikings. Vikings win.
Taking the Vikings, baby. I'm taking the Bills.
Video? Kirk Cousins video flashed out, iced
Amped
out.
up.
Yeah.
Amped up on the plane.
Yep.
You know what? What'd you think about it? What'd you think about that video when you see it? A veteran quarterback, Kirk Cousins, a guy that chokes on prime time, especially at nighttime. I think he's 2-30 something throughout his career. What'd you think of that video when you saw it?
Remind me of Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Paint the picture, because again, we can't show a video. Paint the picture for what he was wearing on that plane.
Nothing. Butt naked with chains on.
He did have chains on. I'll tell you what, I liked it. You like that? I like it. I think that it was great. I think it motivated that team. And you see a guy, a veteran like that, really step up and show out like that and prove that he's confident. He believes in what his team's capable of doing right now. I'm still taking the Bills. All that being said, still taking the Bills at home. Now, Houston Texans, they're a team that's tanking. They're playing the New York Giants. The Giants 6-2, which is crazy. And the Texans 1-6. This game is being played with the Giants, the home team. Giants 6.5-point favorites.
Yeah, the Texans looked pretty good last week, though, against the one of the best teams in the league record-wise, the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't think they're going to really go anywhere this year, the Philadelphia Eagles. I think Jalen Hurts is looking really good. I'm thinking that they win their first round playoff game. They lose the second round whenever the playoffs start, unless they go completely undefeated the entire season, which would be incredible. But the Texans played really good against them. The Giants are probably the worst good team in the NFL. Them are the Jets. Giants are 6-2. Daniel Jones still not a good quarterback. But I'm going to have to take the Giants in this game just because I don't believe in the Texans at all. And hiring Lovie Smith is going to set back their franchise 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, he did that with the Buccaneers. We saw it firsthand. The guy was an absolute joke. But in terms of, hey, let's hire a guy that can handle losing and knows how to handle losing respectfully to where you're not getting beat by 40-plus points, it's Lovie Smith. He's done a good job at that. I'm taking the Giants.
I know how to
as well.
handle losing. I know how to handle losing.
What's that reference right there?
Oh, I know. I lost to Joe Biden.
All right, moving on now. The Kansas City Chiefs, they host the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Chiefs, 9.5-point favorites there in Kansas City at Arrowhead.
Well, man, we don't have Tyreek Hill anymore, but I've got my favorite player in the league, Travis Kelce. And we added a new guy, Kadarius Toney, really fast. We put him in the slot. We're going to see if we can get the ball to him a little.
That's Patrick Mahomes live on the Chris Mathis podcast. Patrick, are you going to be better than Tom Brady by the time your career is over?
I think I'm going to win at least 5, maybe 7 Super Bowls in a row. If you remember a couple of years ago, whenever we beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl, we all collectively said as a group that we were going to win 6 or 7 in a row. So I think I'm probably going to do that.
All right, that's Patrick Mahomes right here on the Chris Mathis podcast. I'm taking the Chiefs to win by 2 scores, if not more. The Indianapolis Colts and the Las Vegas Raiders have both struggled this season. Colts actually have 3 wins. The Raiders have just 2 wins after the addition of Devontae Adams. Derek Carr, 11 passing touchdowns, 5 picks. And we know what Sam Ehlinger's done. He's got 0 passing touchdowns and a pick. The Raiders are our home team favorites in this game, 6.5-point favorites against the Colts. Even with Jeff Saturday, they're still within a touchdown, they say, according to Vegas odds.
Yeah, the Raiders suck. And whenever a team fires their head coach and gets an interim coach, usually from within, which is usually what they mean by interim head coach, it's hiring from within your own building after you fire your previous head coach. Well, the Colts went with a different option here. They went with Jeff Saturday. And with how bad their offensive line is, I'm sure Jeff Saturday, after the 5th or 6th sack that Sam Ehlinger, their quarterback's going to take here on Sunday in the first half, he may get a fork and just gouge his eyes out. We don't know exactly. But I think the Raiders win this game. I think maybe by the end of this game, Jeff Saturday doesn't have 2 eyeballs anymore. I think he may literally gouge them out because that offensive line for the Colts is probably one of the worst I've ever seen. Matt Ryan was sacked countless times. He was going to break the record. They saved him a little bit. I think he's going to retire after this season, but now they throw Sam Ehlinger under the bus, which is not good. So I think the Colts lose this game. You know what? I'm going to take the Colts in this game.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. They've got a terrible offensive line. They're going to suck. Jeff Saturday's going to lose his eyeballs, and now he's taking the Colts.
You know what? Because whenever a team fires their former head coach and promotes somebody new, it gives the team a little bit of juice, and you're hiring the first offensive lineman as a head coach with absolutely no experience. I think it's going to be like a couch quarterback out there, because I think he's just going to be calling run plays 24/7, and they're going to be able to run the ball down people's throats because he was a former offensive lineman. And maybe he even straps up for the center that they have right now, who absolutely sucks. I don't even know his name, but maybe he takes his spot and comes into play.
All right, you got the Colts winning this game. I'm going to take the Raiders, even with that 6.5-point spread. The Green Bay Packers will host the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are 5-point road favorites in this game, 4:25 kickoff.
Yeah, this is my lock of the week. The Packers are 2-6. The Cowboys, not exactly sure what their record is, but it's pretty good. They're one of the best teams in the NFC East. What's their record?
6-2.
They're 6-2, so it's the reciprocal of each other's records. So in this game, you know who I'm going to take?
It's like the Spider-Man meme.
The Green Bay Packers are going to win this game. This is a must-win for Aaron Rodgers. I think he goes out there and slings it around just to show people, hey, I can be high and play in the NFL as well, because he kind of outed himself as a guy that's high on mushrooms before every game before the season started. Now they're 2-6. He calls it ayahuasca. It's definitely mushrooms as well. So they're 2-6. I think maybe before the game, instead of ayahuasca, he sparks up a blunt and goes out there and throws 4 or 5 touchdowns in this game. So I'm going to take the Packers.
You know what? I'd like to think that you're right. I have Aaron Rodgers in fantasy football. I'm actually picking up Trevor Lawrence this week. That sounds crazy, but I am, because it's PPR, completions count. I don't know who Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball to. I don't know how he's going to throw 4 touchdowns in this game. If he had a decent receiver, I might think you're right, Spencer, but he has absolutely nobody. They can't catch the ball.
I think you're forgetting about the best receiver in the 2014 NFL draft class, Sammy Watkins.
Sammy who? Yeah, that's right. Sammy Watkins hasn't been relevant in years, but I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys with the 5 points in Green Bay. Now, the Arizona Cardinals square off with the Los Angeles Rams in Los Angeles. Get this. We just saw the Rams get beat by the Buccaneers, even though the Buccaneers sucked on Sunday. The Rams are 3.5-point home favorites. Rams are 3-5. Arizona 3-6. I don't know what they're going to do with Cliff Kingsbury, head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, so both these teams are 3-6 is what you said?
Yeah, both teams have 3 wins. Rams are 3-5.
I'm going to go with the Cardinals in this game. I think the Cardinals improved to 4-6. The Rams fall to 3-6. And I think Kyler Murray has a big game. I think he's had a couple of weeks to play the new Call of Duty. It came out 2 weeks ago, this upcoming Friday. I think he's going to be able to focus in on this game. DeAndre Hopkins and him are going to have a good connection on Sunday. I think the Cardinals win this game. Big game for the midget quarterback.
You know what, man? You can't say that in today's time.
Midget's PC.
You know what, man?
Politically correct.
You know what, man? You know what?
Yeah.
You're wrong. You know what? Call of Duty just came out recently. I saw that they've spent over $100 million on the game so far in, 2 weeks? He's playing too much Call of Duty. I've got the Rams winning in this game. They must win. They want to win. If they fall to 3-7 or 3-6, it's over. Los Angeles Chargers play against the San Francisco 49ers. Sunday Night Football. Chargers are 7-point road dogs in this game against the Niners.
You know why they're called the 49ers?
7 touchdowns.
Nope. Because in 1849, during the California Gold Rush.
1849.
Yeah, during the California Gold Rush, all the people migrated from across the U.S., maybe even some from China. That's how we got the Chinatown in San Francisco, and that's how we got the 49ers. They weren't established until the 1900s, but they're named after the gold miners. You know what the gold miners done? They used to collect gold. So the 49ers are going to win this game against the Chargers because Justin Herbert looks like Sonic the Hedgehog. I think he's a decent quarterback, but he's going to become the most overpaid quarterback in NFL history here in 2 years. So I'm going to take the 49ers in this game with Jimmy G, the handsome hero at quarterback, Christian McCaffrey, the dude that threw a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and ran for a touchdown just 2 weeks ago. A great trade for them, and I think down the stretch they're going to win their own division. I think they're gonna get past Seattle in that division, and we may even see a playoff game between the Seahawks and 49ers. So the 49ers are going to beat the Chargers this week, and I think Brandon Staley next season, the Chargers' current head coach, will not be their head coach anymore. And you know who's going to replace him?
Sean Payton.
Sean Payton.
Good guess. That was not planned. I didn't know that you were going to say that. I didn't know we were going to agree on that. But you talk about the Chargers, Justin Herbert. One regret I have in life is not selling that rookie card I had of Herbert because it was I don't know what the numbers are like now, but it was pushing like $215, $220, and I bought it out of a Walmart box for dirt cheap. And you're in the same boat, Spence. So hopefully he gets things rolling. I hope it happens on Sunday against the 49ers. I'm taking the Chargers and this game on the road. Now for Monday Night Football, as we wrap up our predictions, we've got a terrible game simply because the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles host the Washington Commanders. And we get to see our guy Patrick Johnson playing this one. The Eagles, 11-point favorites on Monday night.
Yeah, well, the Eagles are undefeated. We saw last week, hey, a horrible team like the Texans has a chance against them with Davis Mills starting off the game 8 for 10 for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns with no interceptions. Well, guess what? You know who they're playing this next week?
Heineke.
Yeah. Did you watch the 2020 playoffs? If so, you saw a quarterback almost beat the team that would go on to win the Super Bowl. And I think Heineke is the spark that the Washington Commanders, the Washington Redskins, or the Washington football team, depending on your political views, I think that's what they needed. And I think Taylor Heineke takes down the undefeated Eagles because they are not a team that should still be undefeated this far down the stretch. Because this reminds me a lot of the Pittsburgh Steelers just 2 years ago, whenever they started off 11-0 and almost missed the playoffs because they finished 11-5. This year, I think that's the Eagles.
I don't know.
Unless Patrick Johnson becomes a starter this week, I'm picking the Commanders.
Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, he could help get the job done. Maybe Brian Robinson, the running back from Alabama, they somehow got shot, came back, and played within, I think, 2 months, something like that. Insane. I'm still taking the Eagles to win this
Yeah,
game.
well-
Do they cover 11 points? No, they don't cover. I don't think they cover, but they do win.
The thing is, if Brian Robinson's having a big game and one of the linebackers for the Eagles wants him to stop playing in the game, all he has to do, we already know his kryptonite, so we may see the first Glock on the NFL field for the first time in NFL history if they want to take him out. But I don't think we're going to see that. So I think the Commanders are going to win this game because Brian Robinson, the dude that got shot and came back, the boy who lived, is going to run all over that Eagles defense.
You heard it here first, guys, right here on the Chris Mathis podcast. That is Spencer Mathis. I am Chris Mathis. Glad to be here with you as always as we wrap up the show. And I'm taking the Eagles, and that'll do it for this one. Again, trying to land a guest for Talk to Him Tuesday. I know of a guy named Tucker Holloway. He's a true freshman at Virginia Tech. I actually interviewed him years ago, about 2 years ago, I believe, when he committed to play at Virginia Tech. He was actually the ACC Specialist of the Week after his performance last week, in which he had a 90-yard punt return, finished the game with 188 punt return yards, a program record. Hopefully we can get this guy on our podcast. I'll keep you guys posted. Make sure to keep up with us at the Chris Mathis, at TCM_pod, at L Savage Spence. And that does it for the Chris Mathis podcast. Talk to you guys next week, hopefully on Tuesday for Talk to Him Tuesday.
Peace out, mother.